So does anyone know what cardiac rehab is? Fixing your heart over there?
Fixing your heart.
Yeah, so basically I work with patients who have either had a heart attack, a stent, if they've had open heart surgery, whether they've had bypasses or they have had stents. Our facility at Brigham City, we just do outpatient, but I worked at Ogden Regional for about 7 years before transferring up here. And there we actually worked with the patients, like the day after their heart attack or the day after their heart surgery. And you're right, our job is to kind of fix the heart, so we're going to work on rehabilitating people. We hook them up to a heart monitor, guide them through the exercise, but then a big part of what we do as well is education. My long-term goal for patients is to educate them about exercising, help them feeling better, doing things they haven't done in a long time, but then also teaching them how to take care of their heart, because I don't want them to have to come through the program again, because they've had another heart attack, or, heaven forbid, if they have to have another open heart surgery, because once is more than you ever need. So that's a little bit about what I do. I graduated from Weber State University in exercise science. I'm a certified exercise physiologist through the American College of Sports Medicine, and I've been doing cardiac rehab for about 9 years. And it's a really rewarding job because we get the opportunity to help people recover, from a pretty traumatic event, basically. So what I'm going to teach you guys today, or talk about today, is just, we're going to start by talking about the heart just a little bit, and then just want to educate you guys about risk factors for heart disease. I have a few handouts up here, so you're welcome to grab them, or I can pass them out, or you can grab them after. We teach a lot about risk factor education with our patients. What can they do to reduce their risk of having a heart attack, or reduce their risk of having another heart attack? As you'll see, a lot of them are lifestyle things, so we're going to talk about those. After the PowerPoint slide, then I'll talk a little bit about exercise, because that's a big component of keeping your heart healthy and strong. If you have a question as we are going, don't hesitate to ask as we go, okay? All right, so let's see where I have to aim this thing. Okay, so obviously your heart is a muscle that pumps blood from the head into the body. Does everyone know, you probably heard it before, but your heart is about the size of your fist. So everyone hold up your fist. And obviously everyone's heart size varies a little bit, but it's not that big. So imagine having to go in and put a stent in there, or having to have open heart surgery. It's not too big to work with. The top two chambers of the heart are called the atrium, and the bottom are called the ventricles. With your heart, you have arteries that carry the blood away from the heart, and veins that carry the blood back to the heart. This is just a diagram of kind of how the blood flows through your heart. Does this have a little pointer thing? So on the top part there, you can see where it's blue, it's going to come in and then go out to the lungs, get oxygenated, come back in, and then go to the rest of the body. So what happens to an artery during a person's lifetime? So this is kind of an example of what your artery looks like. The arteries on your heart are called your coronary arteries. So the top one there, you can see that it looks pretty clear, it has a little, debris in there, so the blood's going to be able to go through there. But over time, and if we're not taking care of our bodies, plaque and cholesterol can build up, and it can start to plug that artery up. And so if you look at the very bottom picture, all that around there is plaque buildup. So you see that little hole in the middle? That's the only amount of blood that's getting through the heart. Now when that completely closes off, that's when we have a heart attack, okay? So this is just a picture I wanted you to kind of see when someone has plaque buildup in their artery. What are our options for that? So I mentioned that I take care of patients that have a stent. And so on the left-hand side shows you that they go in either through your arm or through your leg, send a catheter up, and then they're going to send a little stent with a balloon, and they're going to inflate it and leave that stent there. So they don't actually remove the plaque, they just push it up against the artery wall and have a stent there that holds it open.
Is there any way to clean that like cholesterol and plaque out naturally?
So, great question. So, let me go back one, so just kind of looking at this. So, she asked if you guys heard, how can we clean that plaque or that cholesterol buildup in there? So you can do it by diet and exercise and taking your cholesterol medication. It does take a lot of work to see it reverse. The biggest thing I think that you can do is really prevent it from building up. And we're going to talk about those risk factors and what causes the plaque buildup in there. But great question. On the right-hand side of this is bypass surgery. So open heart surgery with bypass surgery, basically what they do, they create a detour. They bypass the blockage. So if you see up on there where it's circled, right up here, that's a blockage in the heart from plaque. And they just take a vein from different areas, whether it's up here in the chest or from the leg or from the arm, and then they attach it to the top part of the heart. They bypass where that blockage is to get the blood supply to the bottom part of the heart. This obviously requires someone to have their chest cut open for us to get in there and to work on that. Sometimes we see one bypass, typically it's 3 or more. The most that I've seen is 9 bypasses. So basically that means there's 9 different sections that they had to go around to get enough blood supply where it needed to go. You don't want to have this, trust me. Okay, so risk factors for heart disease. So just in general, what's a risk factor? Whether we're talking about heart disease or risk factor for cancer or breast cancer or... What's that?
Family.
Okay, family history is a risk factor. Risk factors in general, something that puts us at a higher probability or a higher chance of having it happen. And so I break down my risk factors into risk factors you can work on to control and risk factors we can't control or can't change. So if you look on the right-hand side, this gentleman right here mentioned one of them is family history. So a risk factor for you for heart disease, as far as family history goes, if you have a parent or a sibling that have had a heart attack or a stent or bypass surgery, that would mean you're at a higher risk. Your aunts, uncles, grandparents, they play a little bit, but mostly we're looking at your parents and your siblings. So anyone in here with a family history of heart disease? Anyone in their family? Yeah? Who in your family?
My brothers have stent. My dad had a heart transplant.
Okay. Okay. And the lady in the front?
My mom.
Your mom? Yeah. So obviously we can't change the genes that get passed down to us. But you'll see that that's only one of the risk factors. For me, I have a grandpa that had a heart attack at 36. So my mom's at a higher risk, but that means I'm not really at a high risk because my mom hasn't had any heart problems yet. So that's good. The other risk factors we can't change, if you see on the right-hand side, are age and gender. Obviously, as we progress through life and get older, that becomes a risk factor. So for men, it's over the age of 45. That's when men start becoming at risk. And for women, it's not till the age of 55 for us, or when we go through menopause. They believe that the estrogen actually protects our coronary arteries, which is good. But then once we hit 55 or go through menopause, we catch right up to the men. Okay. So let's look on the left-hand side. Everything else on here are things that we can work on controlling. Not always easy, but we're going to talk about each of those briefly. So the first on the list is smoking. It's interesting because we used to see doctors out smoking, even at a hospital or inside a hospital. So obviously we've learned a lot about smoking and the damaging effects of it. So smoking not only affects our lungs, but it affects our heart. Smoking increases your blood pressure, increases your heart rate, and then the nicotine actually makes your blood stickier. So the plaque has an easier time to build up inside those coronary arteries. There's a lot of statistics out there about people that quit smoking. That's probably one of the best things someone could do for their heart. Within even just 5 to 10 years of not smoking, their risk of lung cancer, having a heart attack, or any other health problems goes down dramatically and is really decreased by about 50% or more. So that's pretty awesome. By about 15 years, they say that someone's risk of any heart problems is no greater than that of a non-smoker. So that's pretty good. So high blood pressure. Who can tell me what's a good normal blood pressure?
120 over 80.
Yeah, we say 120 over 80 and lower. I know you guys, because I was here helping paying in for the health screen and had your blood pressure checked. To be categorized as high blood pressure, we say anything that's 140 over 90 or higher. And this is at rest. During exercise, your blood pressure should go up. But if you're sitting and resting, what do you think is happening if my blood pressure is 200 over 110?
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure is building up in my heart and my arteries, and if it's doing that all day long and for years and it's not controlled, my arteries are going to start to become weak. And so that plaque's going to come in and find those weak spots and say, hey, I'm going to start building some plaque buildup right here. Also, long term, your heart can become enlarged and your heart muscle in general can become weak. I've actually had this last year, a couple patients that were men that were early 40s that had heart failure because they did not control their blood pressure. And it's a pretty scary thing when you're only 40 and your heart's failing because you haven't controlled your blood pressure. Okay, so cholesterol. This is what most people think of when we talk about plaque buildup in your arteries, but once again, this is just one of the risk factors. So there are 4 things when I talk about cholesterol. We have total cholesterol, then we have good and bad, and then we have triglycerides. Now, did you guys have your cholesterol checked with your health screening? Okay, and did they give you the breakdown of your cholesterol or just the total? The breakdown? Excellent, great. So glad that they did that because that's really important. We used to just look at cholesterol and say, okay, what is your total cholesterol? If it's below 200, you're good and we're not going to worry about you. But that's actually only one part of it. So total cholesterol, you want that number, as I mentioned, to be below 200. But then we also want to look at the ratio between the good and the bad cholesterol. So does anyone know out of HDL and LDL, which is good and which is bad?
HDL is good.
HDL is good. How do you remember that?
My wife's always asking me about it.
Okay, well that's good. Okay, anyone else have a way to remember that? I have a really cheesy way that I learned during school, and so I teach that to all my patients. So I remember LDL for being a lousy loser, okay? You know, in movies, hopefully you never had anyone at school do this loser with the big L. So he is the bad guy, okay? For the general population, we're okay with your LDL being about 100 or below. For my heart patients, we're a little bit stricter, so we actually tell them we want that 70 or below, okay? Our HDL, he's the good guy. I call him the happy helper, so he's the good guy. For men, we want it to be 40 or above, and for women, we have higher standards than you boys, so we want it 50 or above. So basically, if you look at your cholesterol numbers that you got, if your total cholesterol is above 200, that's a risk factor. If your LDL is above 100, that's a risk factor. And if your HDL is less than 40 for men, so say it was only 28, that's a risk factor. And for women, if it's not at least 50 or above, that's a risk factor. So what I kind of explain to my patients with the loser and the helper is your helper is kind of like the garbage man. He goes around in your body, he picks up those losers, those LDLs, takes them with him, takes them to the liver, and the liver processes them out. For every one garbage man, he can pick up 3 losers at a time, okay? Now, how do we raise our HDL? How do we create more garbage men? Who said that? Say it louder.
Exercise.
Exercise. So diet has part to do with it, but actually the best way to raise your HDL is exercising on a regular basis. Now, if I hadn't been exercising and say I went over to the hospital and hopped on the treadmill for 30 minutes or an hour and ran to the lab and got my blood checked, do you think my HDL is going to be up? No. That's going to take 2 to 3 months of good continuous exercise to see a change and improvement in that. And then if I stop the exercise, where do you think my garbage men go? They go on vacation, probably to the beach or to the ocean, somewhere where it's nice, okay? So you gotta make sure you keep that up to keep it going. Triglycerides, this is the fat in our blood, comes from fatty foods, extra calories and things like that we eat. You want that number to be 150 or less, okay? So another risk factor, and this is a really easy one to fix, is just not exercising on a regular basis. So we're going to talk about exercise, but I usually have my patients, if they were not exercising at least 3 days a week for at least 30 minutes before their heart event, and I have them check this off as a risk factor, okay? Diabetes, we see a lot of diabetic patients with heart disease. Diabetes in general means that you have too much sugar in your blood and your body's having a hard time processing that extra sugar. And so the reason it's such a risk factor for heart disease is that extra sugar goes everywhere your blood does. And so that extra sugar runs through your arteries in your heart and causes inflammation and swelling and damages it. And so the plaque comes by and it loves to find those weak spots and build up on there. So we really stress the importance, if someone is a diabetic, really controlling their blood sugars and making sure that it's in a good range, okay? Over on the right side, overweight is a risk factor. Why would weight have anything to do with heart disease? Don't all talk at once.
Makes your heart harder.
Yeah, your heart has to work harder. Anytime we even have just a couple extra pounds, our heart's having to pump and work harder. Oftentimes we'll see our blood pressure going up if we put some extra weight on, because it's showing us that it's having to work hard, okay? Stress and anxiety, this is something that I see a lot of younger heart patients. I've had some heart patients within the last few years that have been in their 30s and have a lot of stress, and they believe that a lot of their stress caused a lot of their heart problems. So this is something I feel like a lot of people just kind of underestimate, the effects of stress and anxiety. What goes up when we're stressed? Blood pressure and our heart rate. And so, the biggest thing with that is learning to manage it and learning to control it. And sometimes we need to reach out and get some help for that. With depression, same thing with that is, we want to make sure we're working on controlling that. So what do we do if we're depressed? Or what don't we do when we're depressed? Probably all those things. Do we exercise? No. Are we eating right? No. Are we maybe taking our medications like we should? No. Are we socializing with people? Probably not. Maybe we're eating too much or not enough. So the big thing with depression is we're just not taking care of ourselves and taking care of our heart. So that makes a big risk factor for heart disease. The last on the list there is anger. With risk factors, they used to have type A personality on there. Have you guys heard much about type A or type B personality? So they've actually taken the type A personality off of the list and really just focused more on the anger. The part of the type A that they were saying was a risk was really the type A's tend to get more angry or more upset than a B personality person who tends to let things go. So once again though, if we're angry, whether I'm driving on the road and someone cuts me off and I get upset, or something else happens and I let that go oftentimes during the day, my blood pressure and my heart rate are going up again, okay? So I like to do a visual here and look at this and say, okay, with risk factors that I can control on the left-hand side, could exercise help with any of those? Okay, and if so, name some to me. Depression, yeah, your body actually releases a chemical called endorphins that helps make you feel happy, okay? Also could give you some confidence and boost that. Okay, what else?
Helps with your weight.
Helps with your weight, definitely. Anything else?
Anger.
Anger, yes. I had a roommate right out of college that had a punching bag downstairs. She got home from work, she delivered the mail, and she would come and just punch him. Like, okay, you must have had a rough day at work today. So yeah, if you're feeling angry or upset, the great thing to do is step away from the situation, count to 10, go for some walk, let off some steam. Okay, what else?
HDLs.
Yeah, we talked about HDLs, excellent, which will in return help our LDL and our total cholesterol, right? Okay. What about diabetes? I don't know if anyone in here has diabetes, but a great way to manage those blood sugars, like I talked about, is watching what they're eating and exercising on a regular basis. Okay. How about high blood pressure? Yeah, definitely. A lot of our heart patients, they actually either get off their blood pressure medication or really decrease the dose once they start coming in and exercising on a regular basis, because it starts getting a little too low. Okay, so everything that we circled there, basically exercise is really the key. When we're talking about heart disease, exercise is the #1 thing I tell my patients that they can do. Besides taking their medications and seeing their doctor at a yearly exam, really exercise is going to help with a lot of these things. So kind of hold that thought as far as exercise goes. I'm going to finish the PowerPoint and then we'll actually talk about exercise. So symptoms of a heart attack, I want to make sure I covered that. I really hate movies and TV shows because of how they project what a heart attack looks like. Most of my heart patients really complain of more pressure or tightness. On a rare occasion, I do have someone say that it was really bad pain, but I almost even hate the term pain. It really is more pressure, tightness, a heaviness. A lot of people say it's like an elephant sitting on their chest. Sometimes that pain can radiate in the jaw or in the arm. It can cause sweating, nausea, shortness of breath, okay? These are a list of some of the not common symptoms of a heart attack. We see that sometimes more in diabetic patients and also in women. So I just wanted to list what sometimes those symptoms are. I know sometimes you look at that and you're like, gosh, that could be anything. And I don't want to make you panicked or nervous. The most important thing is just, kind of being in tune with your body. And if you notice something seems a little odd, then yeah, follow up with your doctor. If it's maybe a uncommon symptom. If it's one of the other ones, then yeah, probably call 911 and go to the hospital. But these are just a few things. I don't see these all that much. For the women, sometimes it's more the nausea, the tiredness, or pain in their upper back. Okay? So what, this just has a list of, how do you prevent it? I kind of mentioned seeing your doctor yearly, exercising, eating healthy, basically managing those risk factors that we listed up on the board. This is just a few statistics. Heart disease really is still the #1 cause of death in the United States. Still outbeats all cancers combined, okay? It says heart disease claims more deaths, well I mentioned that, every 34 seconds someone has a cardiac event, and in 90 seconds someone will die from a heart attack. I can tell you that I honestly kind of forget how scary a heart attack can be, because I always get to see the positive side of it. I always get to see the patients that have survived or they've gotten into the emergency room because their wives bother them saying, hey, we're going to the ER, we're checking your cholesterol. But there's still lots of people that die from heart attacks. So it's a really big deal. Statistics as far as how many heart attacks we have annually, 620,000. And then there's sometimes patients that have another heart attack, okay? So what do we do? What if you had symptoms? What if you felt like you were having some tightness or you felt like an elephant was sitting on your chest? What would you do?
Call 911.
Oh, good answer. Okay, really call 911. Why do you not want to drive yourself to the hospital?
Die.
You could. You could definitely die. You could probably, your heart could stop as you're driving, and so guess what happens? You're going to cause an accident, possibly with someone else, okay? The big thing with calling 911, and up in Brigham we hear it a lot, is, I live really close to the hospital. I can get there faster than they can come to me. Well, if we come to you, though, we're going to do an EKG right there at your house, or once we get you in the ambulance, we're going to start medication. We're going to call ahead to the hospital. When you get to the hospital, you don't have to go in and check in the line and register. We're just taking you back. The other thing we do is we also call ahead, because our facility, we don't do any stents or have any heart surgeries, but we work well with McKay and Ogden Regional, and we call ahead so that their team is prepped and ready if we need to get you down there. We will coordinate all of those things, and the big thing is we start the medications that are going to, open up your blood vessels, slow whatever's happening in there for you, okay? The biggest thing is, your heart really is a muscle, and so the longer you wait, the more heart damage you're going to have done, or you're not going to make it. I've had a few patients over the years that have been in the middle of nowhere, and they kind of waited when they've had their symptoms, and then they finally go, and the hospital's a long ways away. They end up surviving sometimes, but then they have to live with that their heart function isn't as great because their heart attack damaged a lot of their heart muscle, okay? This is just a little last slide about our hospital. With Brigham City, we are a chest pain accredited hospital. We actually just got recertified in that. That's a 3-year certification, and we Had a site review actually 2 weeks ago, where the American Cardiology, I can't remember the other, ACC, American Cardiology something, they came in and they actually do a site review, and we have to show them that we're following their guidelines to be an accredited chest pain center. Our ER staff's fantastic. They're really good with getting you in, whether it is something with your heart or not, we're pretty good about getting you in. You'll see 120 minutes from ER to balloon time. With being a chest pain accredited hospital, we actually have to track when patients come in with a heart attack, how fast we get them out of the hospital, transported to either Ogden or McKay, and they get in that cath lab, and we actually open up that artery. Because your muscle, or because time is muscle, we've got to get it in there really fast, and so the guideline is at least 120 minutes from basically the door, from the time you get to our door before we put something in your artery, and we pass that every time. So the last one there is, we do have cardiac rehab, so even though you come to our hospital, we send you out, get what needs taking care of your heart, then you can come back to our hospital and you don't have to travel to Ogden or Salt Lake, and we take care of the rehabilitation for you, okay? So let's talk about exercise. Oh, thank you. Okay, so what is exercise? Give me maybe a definition or an example of exercise. You guys are so talkative today. Is it because it's so early?
Say it's any type of physical activity.
Okay, a type of physical activity to maybe get you moving. Okay, so what would be some examples of exercise? Walking, great. What else?
Mowing your yard.
Okay, mowing your yard. What else? So everyone in here has to walk, so we all have to do for exercise.
Hiking, running.
Okay, excellent, thank you, thank you. So exercise is something that gets us moving. The big thing I like to teach with exercise is that it's outside of our normal daily routine. So even though I may have a job at the hospital, where I'm on my feet all day and I'm walking around, do I still need to exercise? Yeah, I do. And why is that?
To push your heart beyond what it's used to doing.
Yeah, I have to do something outside of my normal routine, but then I need to do exercise that is continuous. And so that's the big difference between my job is I may walk to the ER, take care of something, I'm hanging out there, then I'm going to walk to another department at the hospital. So it's a lot of stop and go, as where if I decide to walk around the hospital on my lunch break, I'm going to walk continuously for 15, 20 minutes, whatever I can allow, depending on the time. Also with that, my purpose is going to be a little bit different. So if I'm walking to the ER, when I'm not, like it's not a critical thing, otherwise I'd probably be running, but if I'm walking to the ER, I'm probably walking to the ER, right? Now if I'm walking on my lunch break, is my walk going to look different? Yeah, I'm going to walk, and I'm going to keep going and have a little bit more purpose to it. So basically, exercise is important to make sure you get that. And then it's also really important to be physically active. So if I get up every day and run 3 miles, and then I sit on the couch and I don't move the rest of the day, is that healthy for me? No. So you'll hear a lot of people say, well, I'm physically active during the day. And that's great, and that's really important too. But we want to make sure we're doing both. We need to get the exercise in, and you need to make sure you're being physically active during the day. If you're sitting at your desk for more than an hour or two, good idea to get up and stretch and move around a little bit, okay? So with exercise, how do you guys pass these around? I'm going to teach you. Let you pass some of those around. What's called the FIT principle. So we're going to lay out just the basic parts of an exercise program. So when I ask questions here, you have the key, okay? So has anyone heard of the FIT principle? F-I-T-T? Nope, okay, excellent, I get to teach you something new. So FIT, F-I-T-T, stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type, okay? So we're gonna go through each one of these. So frequency, who can tell me how many days a week we should exercise?
4 to 6.
You're so smart. How'd you know that? Okay, so what's recommended for a healthy heart is exercising 4 to 6 days a week. Now, if you're doing 3 days a week, that's just the bare minimum. You're not going to see probably much improvement as far as weight loss or even just improvement in strength or endurance. You'll just be kind of looking to maintain, okay? Now this is our goal. This is what we're going to work up to. So if I haven't been exercising, yeah, start off with 2 or 3 days, but kind of work up to 4 to 6 days. Now, you'll see that it doesn't say 7 days a week, right? So it's really important to take a day off or 2 days to rest so that your muscles in your body can build itself back up and be ready to go again, okay? The great thing is that you can do, 2 days on the weekend, or you could do a Wednesday if work's really crazy on Wednesday, and then do Sunday. Whatever fits in your schedule, okay? 4 to 6 days a week. Now, we're mostly talking about aerobic exercise. So who can tell me what aerobic exercise is? Most of those examples you gave me were aerobic, so like walking, jogging, swimming, bicycling. They're activities that are going to use your large muscle groups, as compared to like strength training, which is more anaerobic and they're short bursts of energy. So the strength training, I always tell people it's a really good idea to do. I'm a big believer in strength training. It will help boost your metabolism, help you lose weight, help you feel stronger. Strength training you want to try and do 2 to 3 days a week at least. And the big thing with strength training is whatever muscle group you work out, you want to give it 48 hours before you work out that same muscle group again. So it's oftentimes where you hear people say, oh, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I do my upper body. Tuesday, Thursday, I do my lower body. So just give that. So if I today did a bunch of bicep curls and worked on my arms, I'm going to wait till Saturday to work on those muscle groups again. Okay, but tomorrow I could do some leg workout. Okay, now intensity. There's 3 types of intensity, and so we're going to add one to your list on here, and I'm sure you guys probably know what the third one is, how to judge your intensity. We teach what's called the talk/sing test. Is anyone in here a really good singer? No one, huh? I never get any takers on that. Okay, so let's say this gentleman right here in the blue shirt, that we're walking around the courthouse for exercise on our lunch break. We should be able to talk and carry on a conversation. It's normal to be a little short of breath, but if it's to the point where he couldn't understand me, then I need to slow down the pace. So if I sounded like this, now tell me your name.
Brock.
Brock, how was your day today? And he's like, Amber, I have no clue what you're saying. So I'd want to slow the pace down, and maybe he's doing okay, and he might keep up the pace, or he might slow down with me. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate the singing, because it's not time for you guys to leave yet. You guys would all leave, I promise. But if I had so much air in my lungs that I could sing Brock a song as we're walking and hold a note, that means I'm not working hard enough. So the talk test means you should be able to talk during exercise, but not sing. Now, the great thing about this is I can do it if I'm exercising with Brock, but guess what? I can do it at home by myself, and, even if my husband's upstairs, he doesn't mind if I try and sing. It's all right. So you can do it anytime. But it really is a really good test to kind of see where your breathing is. Now, anyone heard of the RPE scale? Anyone cheat and look on the back of your thing? Everyone flip your card over. So this is the RPE scale, rating of perceived exertion. So at some point during exercise, whether you do that talk test and check your breathing, see where you're at, you could also pull this pocket size out and say, how does the exercise feel? Okay. Overall, just with your exercise and your intensity, most important thing is to be smart. Listen to your body, realize how you're feeling. The talk test and this RPE are just tools to help you realize how you're feeling. So the RPE scale, I couldn't tell Brock if we were walking, oh, Brock, this looks like this is so easy for you. And he's like, you know what, Amber? This is like somewhat hard for me. So I use this with my patients every single day they come into exercise on every piece of equipment. I come over, whether it's at the beginning or halfway, and I'll say, hey, how's the exercise going? I show them this scale, and they give me a number or a phrase that tells me how hard they're working. So the scale, it's really kind of odd. It doesn't start at 0. It starts at 6. So 6 is no effort, like you guys are sitting in a chair. So everyone's probably at a 6 right now. Now our maximum effort, if I was working as hard as I could, it would be a 20. You'll see on here, 11 to 13 is a good range to work out. I even tell my patients it's all right to do 14, 11 to 14. Fairly light to just above somewhat hard, okay? So at some point during exercise, if Brock and I were walking, we could pull this out and say, all right, I'm about a 12 or a 13. Great, I'm gonna keep up this pace of how I'm going. If we're walking and I'm like, okay, Brock, we really gotta pick up the pace because I'm at like a 9. So we're gonna pick up the pace and go faster. If we were walking and I was struggling because Brock looks like he has long legs and he's tall, and I was like, okay, I'm at like a 17. I need to scale it back and get more in between 11 and a 14. So does that make sense? Okay, this is a really great tool. Use it with heart patients, use it with the average population, with anyone. It's really good. Just at some point, take a minute, ask yourself how the exercise feels. Big thing too with that is don't compare yourself to anyone else, and don't compare with what you were able to do the day before. So even if I was on the bike and I was doing level 2 yesterday and today it was hard, I'm going to scale it back to how I'm feeling today. Because there's a lot of factors that go into that. Did I get enough sleep? Did I work really hard? Or did I work a long shift? Did I not eat breakfast? So adjust it to how you're feeling at that time, okay? So the third way is not listed on here. So does anyone know what the third way would be to judge your intensity during exercise?
Heart rate.
Perfect, Brock, heart rate. So if we wanted to be really accurate and have like an exact heart rate range for you to work out between, that would require us to do like a stress test, or what's called like a VO2 max test to get that. Since most people don't do that or don't want to do that, then we kind of just have a general range of where your heart rate could be in between. So what we do is we take 220 minus your age. So if I was young and 20 again, my maximum predicted heart rate would be about 200. Now some people are going to be a little bit above that, some people are going to be a little bit above that, some are going to be right on. This is just a predicted, okay? And so that would tell me I would not want to get my heart rate above 200 during exercise. Now if it goes above 200, is my heart going to explode? No, it's okay. Then from there we would take a percentage. We do about 60 to 85% of 200, and that would give me a range of where I'd want to have my heart rate in between. So if I was on the lower end, it would be about 120 beats per minute for my heart rate. And if I checked it, sometimes you have those on the machines, then I'd want to pick it up if it was only about 100. Okay? If it was getting too high, then I'd want to decrease my intensity. Now the hard thing with that though is I either have to stop, check my pulse, look at a clock or my watch and try and check that, or you'd have to have a fancy device that would pick up your heart rate. Sometimes the treadmills will have those little silver part on it that will pick it up. Sometimes those are accurate, they're not always accurate. Sometimes I could be, walking super fast up a hill and I'll pick it up and it'll say I'm like 70. I'm like, okay, I know that my heart rate's not 70 right now. So those other two tests, the talk test and the RPE, those are both great ways that you can use that you don't have to have a heart rate monitor for. Questions with intensity? Okay, all right, the first T is for time. What's our goal as far as how many minutes we should exercise for a healthy heart? You guys all have the answer.
30 to 60.
Okay, 30 to 60. So this is our goal. This is what we're going to work up to. If you're just starting exercise, start with 5 to 10 minutes and slowly work on increasing that. I don't encourage you to hop on a treadmill or hop on a bike if you haven't been exercising and do 45 minutes. You're not going to feel great the next day. So you have to start and gradually work up and build on that. As I mentioned, doing 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, 5 to 10 minutes in the afternoon, and the next day, increase it by just a couple minutes. We honestly have our patients come in the very first day, they all do the same test. It's a 6-minute cycle test, and so they ride a bike for 6 minutes. Based on how they do each time they come in, we honestly only increase it 1 to 2 minutes each time. Sometimes if the patient's pretty, conditioned or was doing well before surgery, we'll increase them more. But 1 to 2 minutes is sometimes all you need. And then you look back, and most of our patients are like, oh, I'm at 40 minutes. How'd we get there? Because the first day I came in, I was doing 6 minutes, and that 6 minutes was a struggle. And so you just work on slowly increasing that. With your time, I always like to mention you want to make sure you do a little bit of a warm-up and a cool-down. Okay? So all that means is that Brock and I are going to go for a walk. We're going to start walking a little bit slower. Give a chance for my heart and my muscles to warm up, and then kind of get more into our groove or our pace. Same thing on a treadmill or on a bike, or if I'm swimming, kind of warm up the first few minutes. And then the last few minutes, you know, if I'm running on the treadmill, I'm not just gonna hit stop and just stop. I'm gonna gradually slow down and kind of cool off the last couple of minutes as well. Now that is just included in your total time, so it's not like I'm telling you, you know, you need to do 60 minutes of exercise plus a 5-minute warm-up plus a 5-minute cool down, and you guys are thinking, I don't have time for this. So just include it in your total time, okay? So the last T is for type, and you guys already have my secret that I love to tell people as far as the best type of exercise to do. I always ask people at the end, what do you think is the best type of exercise to do? And I always hear walking, swimming, you know, anything like that. But truly, the best form of exercise to do is to find something that each of you enjoy, okay? If I hated to run, I want to run. If I hated to ride a bike, I want to do it. So you have to find things that you like to do. Now there's lots of things to make it more enjoyable. My recommendation is to not do the same thing every day. Even if you walk every day, take a different route every day. But switch it up, you know. Try a water aerobics class. Go for a walk with a friend. Ride a stationary bike. Go for a hike outside. Try a Zumba dance class or, you know, anything like that. But just switch it up and make it enjoyable. I always think personally for me, it's more enjoyable if I can go outside and if I can have someone come with me. Because if I'm outside, it honestly doesn't feel like exercise sometimes. And if I'm going for a hike with my husband or, you know, doing something else with a friend, the time goes by really fast because I'm talking with them. And by the end, I'm dripping with sweat. I'm like, wow, awesome. We just had a great hike and I got my exercise in for the day. So make it fun, make it enjoyable, switch it up. And that's the other thing too, is your body adapts if you just do the same thing every day. So you have to kind of progressively push those limits and do just a little bit more. And so you can do that by changing up and not doing the same thing every day. Okay, so I think I was supposed to go 45 minutes, right? Or a little more, I didn't know. So I left some time at the end for questions or come up and ask me a question. I was gonna get, and it's Melissa, right? I should have brought it with me, but I have a great handout for a total body strength training workout. And so I'll get those to Melissa and you can just pick up some TheraBands and do them. If I had more time, I probably would have had you guys go through and do those with me because it's really kind of fun to do those. But it's a great, just front and back, and it has great pictures and a great explanation. I love it because if I have to go to a conference or something, I can throw a TheraBand in this little handout and I can do it in the hotel room. Or if I'm short on time and I need to just do something at home, I can do that at home as well. So, questions or anything for me? You guys are so talkative. Okay, all right, well, I'll be around for just a couple minutes if you have a question. Feel free to take handouts. And thank you guys for coming. Hope you learned something, and if there's ever anything I can do for any of you, let me know. I'm just at the hospital. So, thank you.